Good morning, everyone. My name is Greta C. I'm the attorney examiner assigned to this case by the Commission. Thank you for joining us today. This is the technical conference regarding Ohio Power Company's application for an approval of their electric security plan to commence on June 1st, 2024 and continue through May 31st, 2030. And it was filed in case number 23-23 ELSSO et al. This conference is being held in person and is also being live streamed via the Commission's YouTube channel. And for the first time at one of these, that's all I have. I'll now turn it over to Mr. Nurse, counsel for Ohio Power Company.
Thank you. Cords over here. Excellent. All right, hold your applause. Yeah, thanks for everybody for coming. We're going to try to keep this informal. I think, as you all know, I mean, this is a technical conference, so we want to explain our proposals. If they're unclear, you have questions. We want to answer questions about, specifics of how each of the components work. I think what we're not here to do, as you all know, is to get into like legal arguments or really even policy arguments or settlement. And so there may be things that we get that are, if it's too voluminous or complicated, we might say, let's cover that in discovery, that kind of thing. But so this is a conversation, and we'll stay as long as anyone wants to talk or has questions about the filing. I'm sure, given how brief it was, you've all gotten through it and probably fully understand it, don't have any questions. But just in case you do, we will. And so Lisa Kelso is the VP of Regulatory and Finance for AP Ohio. She's going to do kind of a flyover summary, and we encourage questions as we go, and one of us will either try to answer it, or we also have several of our witnesses here that if we get do a deep dive into one of the issues, they can also step up and take the mic. Again, unfortunately, it's set up where there's just one mic, so we're going to have to rotate. But yeah, so Lisa, you ready?
Good morning. So as Steve said, if there's any questions, feel free to interrupt if something is of interest to you. Otherwise, we can also have questions when I'm through. So our ESP5 summary, this is for the period of June 2024 through May of 2030. We are proposing the continuation and expansion of our distribution investment rider. And we're also proposing to define investments as either customer or reliability focused. And for the customer investments, we're proposing to exclude those from the DIR revenue caps. And that's primarily due to the fact that the customer investments, they're externally driven. This is focused on a lot of economic development in the area. It also includes our public project relocation, new meters, new transformers, emergency outage restoration for customers. We're continuing and expanding the electric service reliability rider. That's our veg management rider. Currently, we're spending about $80 million a year on vegetation management, and we're proposing to increase that to approximately $125 million. So that's $35 million in base and about $90 million in the rider. That will allow us to include our danger tree program in our 4-year trim cycle. We're proposing a new customer experience rider, and we would be recovering investments in our new customer information system. Right now we have a legacy, very old customer billing system, so this would allow for much improved functionality. Also proposing to include advanced distribution management system. That's the replacement for our outage management system and distribution management system, including reliability and infrastructure communication plan. Our customers are requesting a lot more and prompt communications, and this would allow us to improve that area. An economic development plan that would support economic development in more disadvantaged areas of our territory. A community grid resiliency pilot. This program would be focused on disadvantaged communities that are more challenged by outage events. We have several different technologies that would help provide power, backup power in a case of an outage. We are proposing a new energy efficiency rider, and we have a witness, if I know sometimes there are questions on that. So for that one, large C&I would automatically be opted out of the rider, and if they choose to participate, they would have to stay in the program for 12 months, and it would offer demand response options for both residential and non-residential customers. We're proposing an EV program that builds on our Smart City EV charger rebate program and would have rebates for residential, corridor, and commercial public programs. Also proposing a rural access rider. This would be focused on 2 rural broadband projects, one in Southeast Ohio and one in Allen County. It would bring service to 66,000 underserved customers, and costs would be offset by any middle mile lease revenues and or NTIA grants that we've applied for. And it would also provide fiber to our distribution assets, so this would be dual purpose fiber. And then we also proposed an Ohio First rider. This is a placeholder rider if we are to receive any future state, federal grants. It just provides a place where we would be able to come back to the commission and ask for approval, and it would make us more competitive by having this rider approved in those applications for those grants. And then we're also proposing a government aggregation standby rider to address some issues in the SSO market, and that's also a placeholder rider that would be dealt with in a separate proceeding. Our ESP also sets the auction rules and schedule for our ESP5 term. We are continuing our BTCR pilot and also continuation of our IRP credits. The legacy IRP would be reduced by $1 each year starting in June of 2025. And then the expanded IRP will continue with existing customers, and then new industry customers could apply through a reasonable arrangement. And we're also proposing a new senior citizen tariff that would offer a $5 discount on the monthly customer charge, and the difference in that revenue would be collected through our bad debt rider. And that is what I have. So what questions do we have? Yes?
Is the bad debt writer that you just mentioned non-bypassable?
No. That's, that was approved in our base case and applies to all customers.
Yeah, I think, yeah, the answer is yes, but she heard bypass.
Oh, sorry. Oh.
On the customer project exclusion on the
Mhm.
DIR caps, have you guys done anything to estimate how much you expect that to be, or is it just a completely open number?
So we have in the filing, we have the total estimated revenue impact, and then we also have what the proposed revenue cap would be for the reliability portion.
So are you proposing a cap for the customer-driven investment?
No, but that's, we provide our best estimate based on our current work plan of what that impact would be.
And we can, we've got some, is this one working too? Is this mic working? You can hear me okay? Yeah. But we have some testimony on this too, but it is an important part of our proposal, and we can explain a little bit why we're going there, because that category of cost tends to be, volatile, but also beyond our control, and also a good thing, because it's typically involving a development and expansion, new load, that ultimately contributes to revenue and helps all customers. So, but in the past, some of the volatility and growth on that customer investment piece has caused us to be squeezed on the reliability side of the DIR, which is which is super important to the purpose of the DIR. So this is to allow us to focus more and be able to manage under those caps for the reliability investment. So I just wanted to explain that a little bit.
But if a project is both reliability and customer expansion, I don't recall seeing anything that indicates how you're going to place that, whether it's gonna be a DIR cap or a customer project cap.
Yeah, and I don't know if Ryan or Tom want to step in here. I'm not aware of that crossover example you were talking about. I think it's usually pretty clear, but you guys want to expand on that?
Primarily, the way we're driving that or making that qualification for the customer is if there is new load involved with that. So if there is any sort of load growth involved with the project, we would then classify that as, or qualify that as customer work, regardless of the reliability.
Okay. Did you hear that? Okay. That's a good question. We can think more about that.
Yes.
A couple of timing questions. What led to a 6-year PSP proposal? And are you planning any distribution rate case during the pendency of a 6-year PSP?
At this point, we don't have any plans for a base case. I think the 6-year term, we did try to have some flexibility in there, so we are proposing DIR caps for the first 3 years, and then we would come back with a follow-up filing as our work plan is solidified for the outer portion of the ESP. We just thought that if we chose a 3-year term, we'd basically be wrapping up the case and then be ready to file the next one. So I think with this one, we built in some stability and flexibility, and that's why we chose 6 years.
Right. I mean, and I think our 6-year term, our current plan, is working well. It's a reasonable horizon without going too long, but that is the experience we've had. Certainly in the first 3 was to, when you get done with rehearing appeal, you're already, it's overlapping, so you're kind of pancaking ESP cases, and so yeah, and that's where we tried to make it a little bit of a hybrid with the comeback on the DIR and some of the other things that are placeholders to try to prepare for that time period without, comprehensively. Certainly doesn't foreclose a rate case during that period.
Yes.
This question is kind of related to the term. So you guys said that if the commission approves the ESP case in June, then you would prorate that revenue requirement for the DIR. Is that $144 million that you guys proposed for 2024? Is that already prorated, or
Yes.
would that be for the whole year? So it wouldn't be 1/12 of 144. It would be
1/7
or 1/6 of 144.
That's right.
Okay, and so that's the same for the 2030 revenue requirement as well?
It'd be
right?
5/12.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, 5/7. Yeah.
Or
We have 5 in our current plan through May, and then the rest of the
Yeah.
year through the new plan. Yeah. Okay. We were good and kept the generation issues pretty much out. Some of you guys are going to be bored in this case.
I'll figure out something.
Yeah? Okay.
yes.
I had a couple questions about the fiber proposal.
Sure.
So I know in the case, was it 191475, that you guys had also proposed something similar. In that one, credits, or revenues from the leases were only going to be credited against the rider up to the cost of installation that was included. Is that going to be the case here as well?
Did you say up to the cost of installation?
That was included, I think it said the cost of installation.
Oh, installation.
That was included in the rider. Like, could that, if the revenues from the leases are high enough, could it be credit, or is it going to stop at that?
Yeah, I don't think we capped it.
I don't think we did.
No? Okay. if it,
We also had a sharing proposal, I think, in that other
Mhm.
case, but.
well, so in the other case, I thought that the sharing proposal was capped at, like, the rider could never be a credit.
A credit.
Well, again, we did some different things in
Oh,
other
okay.
cases that aren't here.
Okay, so that's different here.
Yeah. And the other factor with that, in this case, I think it has the potential to be quite different, of course, is the federal funding
Mhm.
that's out there, and that we have been very active in that area. We've had some provisional success, and, you know, we're moving forward in all the areas that we can to help get federally funded customer investments. And that's part of the Ohio First that Lisa
Mhm.
mentioned, Ohio First Rider.
Okay, and so similar question to that, if, leases from this do end up materializing and remaining profitable moving forward, will the rider remain in place to continue crediting customers as long as leases continue?
You know, I would expect that to be the case. I don't control future rate case decisions, but I think historically, that's the way we've applied those revenues as a credit to cost of service. So even in a base case, those kind of revenues are kind of, you know, automatically, that's kind of how it works, absent some other decision or proposal.
Okay. And when Officer Holt described the bid process for the last mile service from ISPs related to these projects, do you know when that bid process will take place related to construction of the middle mile fiber projects themselves?
That's probably something we'd have to, Scott is not here. That's probably something, that's a very detailed question. And we'd have to get back with you on that.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of where I was going with that, because I know he said he didn't have any estimates at this point for the lease revenues, and the bid process would probably be how they flesh out those estimates.
Mhm.
Do you foresee getting those estimates before the projects are initiated?
Well, are you kind of just asking whether there'll be an ISP partner as the fiber's deployed, or?
Yeah, just
I mean-
kind of, not necessarily if there'll be a partner, like how far in the process, like, is it gonna
Yeah.
be this project's gonna be built out and then you're gonna start soliciting bids, or?
I mean, again, the purpose of our proposal is kind of to kill two birds with one stone and have electric customer benefits, and also enhance for those same customers access to broadband in rural areas that are unserved today and have been unserved, you know, for decades. And so, I mean, we have every intention of trying to be successful, and, you know, build it, and then there's no ISPs there is not a scenario we want to see happen. So I think we're going to try to manage that. Again, especially if we get federal funding, it's just going to make the whole business case, you know, much easier, better. And, you know, the reason we propose this is because we want to see our customers that are unserved have access to broadband.
Okay. And so, also, just one more related question off that, when you're talking about building it. So you guys are seeking the approval to move forward with this project in this case, right? That would be a separate application for the actual construction of the.
Correct, that's
Yeah,
in this
okay.
case.
Yes.
Yeah.
For those two projects.
Thank you.
Are you drawing on lessons that your affiliate in West Virginia would have learned from its deployment of broadband?
I mean, it's the AEP experience. We always do that with all areas of our operation, where we try to, you know, utilize best practices. But there is a law, as you may know, in West Virginia and Virginia that are different, and they have different parameters, like the ISP partner thing I mentioned. But yeah, we definitely we talk to them and share experiences.
One question about the projects. You mentioned the two locations, one being southeast Ohio, the other being Allen County. Is there any detail you can provide why those two projects were chosen? Obviously, you guys serve a large area that's underserved broadband-wise, but those two distinct routes, I was just curious about.
I think there's a bunch of reasons. I mean, I think the numbers drove part of it, and we also wanted to serve different parts of our service territory. Those are two projects that have, you know, very a good cost benefit case, you know, business case, and you know, again, obviously the starting point is where unserved areas are that are in our territory.
And also can benefit from the distribution asset communications.
Yes.
So there was some
Mhm.
distribution aspect to that.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what we did in Grid Smart Phase 3, what we proposed, and then what we've proposed in some of the federal grants, you know, there are different projects out there that all of which we think are great, but, you know, for kind of those reasons, these were the two that we had to try to boil it down to, you know, starting somewhere. Frank?
Yeah, two questions. One, what is the status of the 1 mile application? And two, you're looking to connect the projects here to existing fiber according to your application. Will the existing fiber also be opened up to ISP?
Well, on the second question, I think we do, it's a competitive process for where we have dark fiber to access it. I don't think we've closed off anybody that's interested in that. Because again, that's additional revenue that we get that we apply and help reduce the cost of service. So it's you know, it's a prudent thing to do, and that's what we do. Relative to you said the status of our broadband proposal. We have, and I'm not the expert, we can get back with you on this too, or do a discovery question. But we do have, what I was referencing earlier about provisional success is the DOE process for, you know, there's multiple categories of grants and different methods for funding. But we had at least 3 of our, actually it was like 7 out of 11 of our applications that we made it through the first gate, where DOE says, these look pretty good, and, you know, we encourage you to move forward. So generally, that just gives you an idea of you know, again, some traction we've gotten so far. It doesn't mean any or all of those will clear the additional gates, but it is progress.
Yep, it's my understanding we should have more information on those projects at the end of February or March.
On your rural fiber proposal, it is limited to just your service territory, correct?
Well, I think when you say it is limited, I think the fiber would be, but I think, you know, we, especially when you get down into Appalachian, Ohio, there's a lot of boundaries that look like political gerrymandering boundaries sometimes. And, you know, you go through, or you go up against the county line or whatever on the side of the road. So obviously, anybody that accesses it would have their own retail customers, and they could be, you know, wherever. But, yeah, but I think
Yeah.
the main fiber deployment would be generally in our territory, with the caveat that I said before about many times you got electric lines and poles and routes that do cross into other providers' territories. That's very common. But on the whole, yes.
So in general, you're gonna put the fiber in your service territory, but as far as broadband fiber customers, they could be non-AP Ohio.
They could be,
Mhm.
some of them, yeah. That's right. Because we're not providing the retail service.
Right.
So those customers could be, again, across the road or down the road.
On your electric transportation plan, with the different installments and structure you're proposing to implement, is AEP gonna have any ownership or profit sharing in any of those installments?
For the chargers, do you mean
Yeah.
owning the chargers?
Yeah.
No.
What about other aspects of the EV program?
What's your question? I don't understand.
I
Is there
was-
any ownership of any?
Ownership?
No.
So it says, I think Witness James testified would provide incentives for third parties to deploy DC fast chargers in transportation corridors and additional public charging infrastructure in non-corridor locations. I'm just trying to figure out if AEP is gonna have any stake ownership, profit sharing
That's referencing rebates essentially. And
Adrian, do you
Adrian's
wanna-
here
The primary vehicle is the incentives and rebates. However, there is one line in the plan that's back in the DC fast charging where it says, if no one is taking us up on our rebates in certain underserved areas, we reserve the right to be the provider of last resort. But that's, again, if no one is trying to build out in that location, we just want to make sure that we can serve our customers that need to be served. If the private market won't step in.
But are you offering, I don't remember, as Mr. Parrish noted, it was a small class. Do you recall if you're offering different levels of rebates between the underserved versus other locations?
Yes, we have a 50% increased rebate in certain census tracts.
Okay. And so you're gonna go by census tract to identify an underserved community?
Correct.
Have you guys looked at any of the back and forth that's occurred in Illinois as they seek to implement the EV Act there that contains some specific language about the underserved communities and trying to determine what those are?
I have not.
Yeah, and that's an area we could discuss. Again, I think the census tract is pretty good, it's pretty general, or granular, and we've used it before. So, but there may be other ways to identify areas of disadvantage, economic disadvantage. Yeah.
Yes.
Besides the situation where AEP might be the provider of last resort for those installations of EV infrastructure, are any of those third-party installers affiliated with AEP in any way?
Well, I don't know if we know who they are yet, but
Would it be like?
it would be a competitive,
Okay.
it would be a competitive process, and non-discriminatory. So I guess you could say if they are, it would be similar to Crest, where, they might serve AEP Ohio Wires customers, but they're doing so on a level playing field and non-discriminatory, access. So certainly we're not excluding any affiliates from participating on that basis.
Question on the DIR. You're proposing to include physical security cost upgrades. Are these capital or O&M costs? And if they're capital, do you happen to know which FERC accounts?
Which, what, FERC accounts?
Yep.
Do you remember? They are they are capital investments, but we'll have to get with you on the FERC account number.
For the DIR?
Yeah.
It would be consistent with what is currently included in the DIR.
So it would be one of the accounts that already is part of the DIR, but we can find out which one it is.
I have a question on a follow-up on the DIR. I believe he said that basically to categorize it as a customer-driven investment, it would be if there was any load growth from the project, then that would fall in that category under your theory outside the caps. But in testimony, it gave different projects, including the integration of new residential and commercial customers. I get that that's a good external request capacity, and it listed outage restoration. How would that be a customer-driven investment? Why wouldn't that be under the caps? Because that's not throwing any.
So what we're looking at that as like customer restoration and being more reactive in nature, whereas all of the reliability work is more our proactive work plan to maintain and improve reliability. And so also in that customer category is kind of like that externally driven reactive investments.
You haven't done anything to identify, a project could be reactive, right? And so it means, well, let me back up. You have a work plan and it's gonna say, here are all the things we propose to do over the course of 3 years. And down at the very bottom of 3 years is a project, but then you have a reactive instance that pushes your project in year 3 up to the beginning of year 1, right? Have you guys done any assessment of how you all will level that playing field? Because from my perspective, while it may be a customer project, if it ticks off a box that's on a reliability piece, it's part of the DIR. It just didn't exactly occur the way you intended it to in year 3 or year 4. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
So-
Oh, go ahead, Lisa.
So I think what, like with the reliability work, we're trying to protect it so that these externally driven reactive situations that we have, you know, with a lot of economic development that's grown, that it's not going to eat into that reliability work plan. And so, you know, one example would be if there's a failure. So if we're maybe not able to get to rehabbing a station because we haven't had enough investment dollars and something fails, and that's part of restoration work, that's going to be in that customer category. And actually doing that work as part of the work plan before it would run to failure, that would be more of a reliability driven project.
Yeah, and I think my answer would be, it depends, but I think we understand your point, and we can
Right.
think more about that. But like, something like a dig-in is gonna fall into that category that's externally driven, but we have to deal with it. That's not gonna be on the plan to repair that. That's not gonna be on the reliability plan, but, so I think it depends, and then, you know.
It depends on the project, right?
It depends on the project, and, you know, again, I think we understand your point, having said that, but.
Yes.
So just to clarify, so like if something's in, like if something would fall under the cap and then it fails before it can be replaced, then you would consider that externally driven investment and that would be removed from the cap?
So restoration work, that is what we put in the customer category. If we're able to protect those reliability investments and stick with our reliability plan, we do think that will have an impact on the restoration work as well. The goal is to be able to be more proactive rather than reactive.
And another thing, I'll just, and again, Tom and Ryan are here, but they can speak to it more, but I think, the beauty of the DIR is being able to manage investment that helps customers and helps reliability. And so when you say something was in year 3 of the plan, now that could be, but the plan is pretty dynamic, and it changes, and it gives management operational and flexibility to manage under that cap and do all the best things that year that they can do at that time. So it's pretty dynamic.
Yeah, the way you're looking at it, if we have a failure on a project that would be on our reliability plan, we would go out and quickly fix that small piece of equipment or that small wire or that one pole, all right? And that would go into that customer-driven side. But we don't generally, and I've been doing this for a long time, think of anything that fails so big that it's on your reliability plan that you would replace the whole thing. So you're talking a mile of overhead conductor or a major transformer. Generally, the failures we see are small pieces of the equipment, and we just go out and replace it. And they would stay on the reliability plan, and then we would replace the totality of it. And the cost would only be what the full cost of that project is, minus whatever we'd already repaired and would reuse, if that makes sense. And to the larger question of can they end up on both, small overlap. So for example, if somebody's building a new business in an area that's already highly developed, and we would have to upgrade the equipment that runs to them because it's taking more load on, that would just be a customer-driven project to us because we have to replace all the equipment that goes to that new facility, whether it's only 20 years old or 50 years old. The way this works more in reality is the growth is taking place primarily in greenfield area, all right? And we're building primarily new facilities to people. we haven't seen much growth in areas that we have a lot of old infrastructure that we would have to upgrade. I mean, and we're willing to kind of parse that out if we need to and look at it and have those discussions, but that overlap's pretty small.
And kind of on that topic of failed equipment, I mean, the goal, like Lisa's talking about, is we're trying to be proactive with our investments so customers don't experience that outage. Ultimately, we want to save, ultimately, we're going to, whether it's on the reliability list or it's on the customer list, that equipment is going to be replaced. We just want to save the outage.
And, one thing I would just add too is overall, I mean, every dollar that we spend on the DIR is got to be prudent, and it's audited financially, and it's audited for prudence. And so, we are managing these things to the customer's benefit and, subject to that regulatory oversight. So, even though it's not under the cap, I kind of explained the reasons earlier why it's not over the cap. It's still subject to being prudent and being financially and prudent, subject to those audits as an additional protection.
Where would major storm expense go?
Well, so major storm, we have a separate rider for that for the O&M piece. And there is a portion that is capital, and that would be part of the restoration category that would be in the customer bucket.
So a major storm comes through, the O&M piece goes to the storm rider,
Mhm.
and the capital goes to the untapped reactive DIR.
Yes. And that's also for the fact that we want to protect that reliability work plan and be able to execute it.
Would the physical security upgrade that you're proposing be part of the reliability part half, or would that be separate?
That's in the reliability.
Okay.
Other questions? Should we take a vote now on approving the plan?
I think we might have a couple more. Yes.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm just killing
So,
time.
I know you guys said that, so this is about the Ohio First Rider. I know that you mentioned you had some grants and applications with the DOE already for the fiber proposals.
Mhm.
Do you guys have any sort of list of proposals that you're planning that might be included under the Ohio First Rider?
I don't know if we have any specific plans right now. It also would be a place if there's not another mechanism for it to fall under. So, if we were to get a grant that's related to rural broadband, that would be most likely in our rural access rider is what we're proposing. So the Ohio First Rider it's more contemplating future applications or a place where we may not have a rider where we'd be able to collect and recover those investments. And if we were to receive funds, let's say there are some funds that would qualify for the DIR, it would just reduce that rate base that's going into the DIR.
Okay, so that was kind of my second question.
Mhm.
So this is intended to recover for projects that might not, or that don't fall under potential categories of cost recovery for other riders, essentially?
And projects that we would need to seek approval from the PUCO to complete.
Yeah, there would be future cases that would be filed if we do get a grant and the investment doesn't already fit within the DIR, let's say. Obviously, if it's rural broadband, it fit there. If it's something else, it could fit in the Ohio First, but there'd be a separate filing. And, the business case changes, obviously. If you get a grant, then the cost benefit, analysis changes. And that's what we'll be presenting in that separate case to seek approval for the ratepayer portion of the investment.
Thank you.
Well, we'll be happy to stick around for a few minutes if other people want to chat informally and, or have other questions. But we can do last call for the group questions.
All right.
All right?
Well, thank you.
Appreciate everyone's time.